Back in the day, Sonic was one of the greats. Sonic used to be a franchise that constantly pumped out games that were widely praised by everybody, for the most part. But nowadays, that's simply not the case. It would be a fucking miracle if a new Sonic game got as much praise as the classics did back in the 90s. That just seems completely impossible. This is definitely due to the fact that the Sonic franchise has just branched out and tried new things. And no matter how good the new game is, there will always be people saying Sonic still sucks and Sonic was never good, just because it's a Sonic game. Now, if the game was truly bad, then the hate is obviously deserved. For example, I believe that Sonic Forces deserves most of the hate it gets thrown at it because it's just a bad game. But do I think that same hate should be thrown at a game like Sonic Frontiers just because it's different from classic Sonic? No, absolutely not. A lot of the hate for Sonic games nowadays is just uncalled for. But why is that? But before starting though, I just want to say that everyone is entitled to their own opinion. I am not trying to attack anyone's opinion by making this video. If you dislike the Sonic series as a whole, then that's okay. If you dislike Sonic Frontiers because of its obvious flaws, then that's also okay. But if you make the effort to shit on Sonic Frontiers and everybody who enjoys it just because it's not the Sonic game you wanted, then yeah, no, I can't respect that. Anyways, I guess we should just start with Sonic Frontiers. And yes, the game has its flaws. The gameplay gets repetitive at times, the worlds are pretty empty, and the game has a dog shit ending. All of that stuff is valid criticism if you ask me. It's when people mindlessly hate on the game just because it's a 3D Sonic game and not what they personally wanted. Listen, it's fine if the game didn't live up to your expectations, but don't blame that on the game itself because it didn't do anything to cause that. It just wasn't the game you were looking for. But I feel like the true dislike for Sonic started all the way back at Sonic Adventure. Yes, Sonic had a rough transition to 3D is still a phrase that is widely spread by the masses. Listen, Sonic Adventure was definitely something. People genuinely liked the gameplay, but it wasn't perfect. It wasn't this groundbreaking historical game like Super Mario 64. It was just Sonic in 3D, but with fishing. Then we have Sonic Adventure 2, which was actually more praised than Adventure 1. This is probably due to the fact that the pure spectacle of this game was massive. It also introduced Shadow, which is one of the most popular Sonic characters nowadays. And while I personally don't think that Sonic Adventure 2 is that good of a game, it's clear that people were very fond of it when it was first released. This was definitely what 3D Sonic needed to take off. Then we had Sonic Heroes, and no one gave a shit about Sonic Heroes. And then we had Sonic 06. Ah, man. This was it. This was the new direction the Sonic series was going in. Sonic 06 was shaping up to be a next-gen reboot for the franchise. So, the game came out, and it was terrible. It wasn't like Adventure where it was just kind of mediocre and had a split reception. Sonic 06 was truly awful. No, it wasn't just awful, it was a joke. Really? This was the new direction for the Sonic series? I don't even need to explain why people hated this game. You already know the story. This almost immediately gained the title of one of the worst Sonic games. No, one of the worst games ever made. This game absolutely tarnished Sonic's reputation. He turned into a laughingstock because of this game. And I'm mentioning all of this because I truly believe that Sonic 06 was where all of this hate stemmed from, because it was just laughable. After 06 was released, we had a good mixture of good Sonic games, bad Sonic games, and just mediocre games. But something that remained consistent throughout the release of all of these games was the fact that Sonic 06 was always brought into the conversation. No matter how good the game was, we were always reminded of how Sonic 06 ruined the franchise. It was either this or Sonic had a rough transition into 3D. It was hard to escape the mistakes that were made with Sonic, and this still remains a big problem. Sonic Frontiers was the first well-received Sonic game in almost a decade, but many people, mainly critics, made sure we didn't forget that Sonic has been a pretty bad series throughout the past couple of decades, and I feel like this made people feel like Sonic is supposed to be bad. The fact that Sonic has had so many bad 3D games gave people that impression. It's now difficult for a 3D Sonic game to be good because in the eyes of the people, 3D Sonic is not meant to be good. And this is exactly why I feel that most people still widely hate Sonic nowadays. All it took was a few games to create the stigma that Sonic games are supposed to be bad. No matter how fun they are or how innovative they are, people will never forget that Sonic was a bad series. People will always consider Sonic to be bad because of those games. That's just how it is, unfortunately. That's going to end this short little rant video, everybody. Hopefully what I said makes sense, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. But that's it for me, so thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all later. Goodbye.